Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Party Invite podcast. I am your host, Tegan, joined as always by Vilos
That's me.
and Obsydianyte.
Hello.
And the three of us are your party leaders today. This is a now playing episode, which means we're going to tell you about one game each that we've been playing recently. As usual, our games are pretty different from each other. I really enjoy the variety that we each bring and the ways that we play. But before we dive straight into those games, let's listen up. We'll talk about something in the gaming or non-gaming world, something in our lives that made us smile this week to make the world a little more smiley. So I'll start that last weekend, I live up here in Seattle now. You two are in Kansas City. That's how this all got started, but I live out here on the West Coast. And since I moved out here a few years ago, I have never ridden a bike in the city. Never once. So last weekend, there was a big event, a cycling bar crawl thing that went 20 miles around the whole greater Seattle area, which is a long distance to ride. But we borrowed a friend's e-bike, so I was able to hop on there in my I'm not like totally out of shape, but I'm not ride a bike 20 miles in a day in shape. So hopping on an e-bike was great because an electric bike, if you want it to do the work for you, then it just works for you. You know, you're going up a hill, no problem. You want to go really scary fast, maybe too fast. Okay, this is too fast. I need to slow down. Then you can do that too. And it was great. So we went to all these breweries around the greater Seattle area that I've never seen before, places I've ridden past that I didn't even know were breweries. So I got to explore. It's always more fun and it feels safer to ride bikes in a big group of other cyclists because you're easier to see, so you're less likely to get hit by a car or something. Huge success. Now I cannot wait to get an e-bike. Not just as good exercise or a fun way to travel, but just a way to explore a little bit more without having to use a car. It was wonderful. Here up in Seattle, there are lots of bike lanes and bike roads that are closed down. A lot of cities during COVID had like local access only roads go up where you might have seen like roadblocks and stuff. I saw a few of those in Kansas City, but as soon as lockdown lifted, those went away. But a lot of those that were put in place here in Seattle are permanent. And so there are these big, long, wide residential roads that you can ride on that are permanently closed to vehicles. So you'll still see vehicles on them. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. But it's nice to be able to ride your bike or jog in the road, which is easier and safer as long as there aren't vehicles. It's definitely easier on your body, that's for sure. But it was a great success. I'm excited to ride bikes a little bit more. For exercise and to just be able to travel. I was surprised to understand firsthand what others here have told me, that when you're riding an electric bike, it's more about how long it takes you to get somewhere rather than how far it is. Because like I said, the e-bike can do most of the work for you if you want it to. So the physical aspect really isn't a big deal. So I'm excited to do that because now it feels like I could just reach anywhere within an hour on that bike. Like there's hardly anywhere, even like far away, that I feel like I can't reach. So
I mean, yeah, max speed is like 25 to 28 on most of those usually. So
I didn't even.
Oh, wow. You can cruise on those then.
I mean, so you have 5 settings. You can either throttle to just make it go, or you can do pedal assist, which has like the one I rode levels 1 through 5. So like on level 1, as soon as you start pedaling, it gives a little energy to the bike. So like level 1 is normal. You might not even notice that it's helping you if you're on like an incline or something. But I only went up to 3, like when I was on a really steep hill. But then for fun, I was like, well, what did 4 and 5 look like? And I pedaled for like a couple seconds and I was like, nope, that's too fast. That's too fast. Just like
it doesn't need the help at that point.
It suddenly is very, very fast, like kind of scary fast. So wow. At least I know it can. If I need to go fast, it sure can. But yeah, really, really happy to have learned a new way to navigate Seattle. So, how about you, Sid? What do you got?
Well, the other week I went to an anime convention and it was a lot of fun. I didn't spend as much time as I like thought I would, but also I almost didn't go. I don't know. It was just like it was like a thing where it's just like, I'm not really interested in the panels this year. Like, I don't know who the guests are, things like that. Like, I've been out of touch with anime for so long that, being current on what's active, like what's actively being updated and who the new voice actor, people are, now that like the ages have shifted, so we don't have like, the OGs or whatever anymore. Um, but now that I've started rewatching and catching up on some anime that have been released in this season and last, I was just like, okay, let's go. Let's have a good time. It's fine. So I went to a panel that was run by, I can't remember who she plays in Fire Emblem, but she was right next to the lady who plays Tamara in the autograph line. And she was really nice. Vilos, I thought you might appreciate that, which I wish you would have gone. They had so many Fire Emblem things going on this year. I
Oh,
don't know.
I would have appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we
She was
need
really pretty.
is a Vilos Pokeball where Vilos can be in his comfort zone until you're like, yo, check this out. This got Vilos written all over it. And Vilos pops out and is
Go,
just like,
Vilos!
oh, okay, this is pretty rad. All right, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go back though. Just tuck
My
you
social
away.
battery is just done now. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just talked about the bikes. At the end of that cold, beautiful day, someone was like, hey, we're going to have a bonfire at my house. And I was straight up like, guys, there's no way. Like, they're like, oh, but we really want to hang out. And I'm like, yeah, and I do, like, tomorrow. Like, we've been biking for 6 hours. Like, my social battery is empty. I'm going home.
Nice.
I need my own
Those are the kinds of
Pokeball.
people that you only see in like sitcoms and stuff, where it's just like, oh my gosh, we got new neighbors and they're so friendly, and then they just want to hang out with you for your entire life, and it's just like ah. But the panel that I went to, which is the thing I want to talk about that made me super happy, is this actress was hosting a panel on what are called effects. And effects in the voice acting terminology is anything that are just like action grunts or like exertions of any kind, things like that. They're also known as barks. As far as I know, like my previous uh, intel that I had, they call them barks as well. But barks are more like one-liners sometimes too. Those can also be barks. But these ones are specifically effects. And so I went there because the panel had described it as like an audience participation panel. And I was like, ooh, that sounds fun. Okay, I want to see if anybody gets all up in here and does the things, right?
Mhm.
And also I thought it would be fun to like do it myself because like I I dabble a little bit in voice acting. As I don't know if we talked about this on Pod or not, but I got my first role as like the hotel's voice recording system or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
So I was just like, I might learn something else through here. So I went there, and it was so funny because she called some people up on stage. I ended up being one of the people because I'm the main character of the universe, and she went down the row and she was giving everybody like a classic, anime trope. Like you're gonna be like the wise mage, or you're gonna be like the misunderstood creature. You're gonna be like the stalwart hero. And mine was, you guessed it, the pro tag. So she gave me, like, I didn't ask for it. She just bestowed it upon me
It
as
just.
like her pro voice actress analysis skills.
Mhm.
Just gave me the pro tag and stuff. So what was a lot of fun was that she taught us the different effects. Like there's different exertions for taking damage, receiving damage, giving damage, or, lifting things, pushing things, pulling things. There's different ways that the energy and stuff travels and stuff. And so, uh, what made me happy was that all of these people were just in the room, you know, gasping and screaming and groaning and grunting and moaning and things like that. And it was just fun to hear. Because we had like before she called everybody up, she'd be like, okay, let me give you some examples.
Mhm.
I'm going to attack you with like a huge sword. And she did like an example sound. And then she was like, okay, now it's your turn. And everybody was just like doing the example sound and stuff. And then the one that really got me and tickled me was being like stabbed in the back or like attacked in the back or whatever, because when you are attacked from the front, all the air comes out your stomach, like from the front, it's like a like a sort of affair. But then when you're getting attacked from the back, it's more like and so everybody was in this was in the room like like, and it just sounded like Soul Calibur mixed with Dead or Alive mixed with like you know certain kinds of anime. It was such a fun time. It was
But
so good.
accurate
It
work,
tickled me
right?
so much. You know, as the pro tag of the room, I had to put in my work. Although when she
That's good.
she was assigning us things to do, like things to attack with and things to take damage from, she gave me fists, which I'm so sad about because like she could have given me anything else. I don't know how it sounds when I attack people with my fists. I'm a kicker. Like I'm a
Did you
kick
see?
chick. Like
Check my resume. Yeah.
check my resume. There's nothing here. I'm 2 inches thick.
Same. Turn
But
sideways,
it was a lot of fun. Disappear, right? Presto.
That's right.
It was a lot of fun though. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's one of the things that I always make fun of too in like fighting games and stuff. So it was really fun to just see that kind of play out in like real time. She also had a different panel the next day, which I didn't attend, where people could like read from a script and stuff. So I think that's really cool that voice actors come out here and they give people real experience and real um, trial and error sort of, and then are actually able to provide like on the spot feedback and things like that, just should they elect to do so. And I think just it's really cool that they just take the time out of their day to to adhere and appease these fans here who some of them want to become voice actors and some of them actually go on to become voice actors, like the actor Zeno Robinson. He started out as a fan just like us. He's like imitating Sora from Kingdom Hearts, and now here he is playing like Hawks in My Hero Academia and like other reputable roles that don't immediately come to mind, but like he's really cool, and I like that that's a path from fan to actor that is possible by actors like this lady who held that panel, because people are then exposed to terminology and how things go down in a studio and things like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I love that. I haven't been to any cons up here in Seattle. Like, not that there aren't cons going on, but honestly, I've just been a little intimidated to go by myself. I need to find some people to go with because I'm just like, there's so much, and if I'm trying to preserve that social battery, I need somebody to lean on. So yeah, but there's like such an obvious joy to being able to experience something like this. Same with video games, of like enjoying something that you typically enjoy by yourself and going and being in the wild with other people experiencing that. Especially what you said, Sid, of like trying out making all these sounds in a big room with a bunch of strangers. Like, that sounds really fun.
I mean, honestly, like where else can you do something like that specifically where it's not gonna garner you any judgment? You know what I mean? Like making those sounds specifically in public
I
in
was
front of
gonna
other
say,
people.
For sure.
Yeah.
it's just like signing up for a theater course. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, that's a good time. Well, Vilos, what do you got for us?
Uh, I mean, it's always a purchase, so I think this one. I think this one's gonna be the final, the final Xeno CD collection, basically. So, I grabbed the
Oh, it's
Xenoblade
thick.
X.
Oh my gosh.
I grabbed the Xenoblade X, and yeah, it's three disc or 4 disc.
Oh, dip.
It's 4 disc. So yeah, super pretty. This is a game that I am completing via emulator, and booklet fell out. I'm completing via emulator because that's kind of what we have to do. But it's very likely to be a game that is a Switch 2 thing. But super cool, old classic style, like massive CD case, like you mentioned, with an absolutely beautiful book of art and lyrics and stuff. The funny thing with this soundtrack is all the other Xenoblade soundtracks are orchestral and everything. This one is like 60% orchestral. The rest of it is like new metal.
Hell yeah.
New metal.
That sounds
and,
exactly like the Sonic Symphony experience.
yeah, new metal with some very white rappers. Like as far as the sounds go, all I've got to say on that is you should look up on YouTube Black Tar Xenoblade X, and you're gonna find out that it's actually an absolute banger. But it's got
you shared
some,
that
like,
one a while ago, didn't you?
Yes, I shared it, and if you listen to it, you'll know it was a banger, right?
It was a banger. It was a banger.
It's very weird. It's not something that you expect to be in an RPG of any sort, but because Xenoblade X is far into the future, you got mechs and shit. It's just all over the place, but it's beautiful. And despite the fact that my case unfortunately has a small scratch on it. This came out 9 years ago, and you can still get perfectly brand new copies of the soundtrack. It was still completely in plastic, like absolutely untouched.
At like
also,
not scalped prices or like actual affordable.
Yeah, not scalped prices. This was like $33 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and
with 3 discs, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I don't remember if I've actually showed it on the pod, but I've got this portable CD player. It's one of my favorite purchases. Are you sure that's
not a calculator? Because it looks like a calculator.
It belongs in a museum.
Right? It's one of my favorite purchases of the past year, and I love it so much.
It even has the see-through technology. Oh
yes,
my gosh.
It's I've got links for all this stuff, but it's just one of those things that, you know, I've got a very, very particular collection of things that I have because of all my moves, and my most recent one was pretty bad. I've reduced myself to a very minimalist state, but there's a few things that I want to keep, right? And it's going to be my game collection and my little bit of a CD collection that I'm trying to build. So
you're like,
Xenoblade X
the only
like
things I want to keep are all my games and consoles, all my music, all my food stuff, my TV, my monitors, my PC. I'll get rid of the bed. I can live without the bed.
You say the food stuff, and it's really funny because, like, I've got a collection of beer glasses, and I'm just like, I can't get rid of those. But
if you need someone to hold on to something for you, I'm here. I can hold on to some beer glasses for you. I'll make sure that the cats don't knock them over trying to study gravity for science. I promise that I can try to prevent that.
That's a struggle for us.
Try. She's literally right here like, whoa.
Yeah, what can I do?
That's the realness, though. I mean, we've got we've got a bunch of beer glasses from just a ton of things, but we actually have I have a couple Hearthstone glasses that I got at a Hearthstone event years ago, and I don't use them that often, so they end up back in the back half of our, too big cabinet full of glasses. And Lizzie's like, oh, we're trying to get rid of stuff. And she's like, oh, well, you don't use these very often. I'm like, nope, absolutely not. We're keeping those. I don't care what we're getting rid of. It's not those. And she's like, but you don't use them that often. And I'm like, you're right, but I have to keep these.
I'll get rid of that pair of shoes over there before I get rid of those glasses.
So it was hard. It really is hard getting rid of that stuff. And, I've talked before that when we moved out here, we got rid of 3/4 of our stuff. And it went in waves where we were like, okay, here's the easy stuff. Okay, here's the not so easy stuff. And then here, we got to the point where we're like, we don't want to get rid of anything else, but we simply don't have room. And so we went to Goodwill so many times. And then we moved out here with our U-Haul and all this stuff. And after we got here, we realized we actually still brought too much stuff and had to donate even more. So we were pretty surprised that we were still donating stuff after we were here for 6 months, and we still had boxes to be donated. But once we did, it was so liberating to just know that we were so light. We only had stuff that we really needed. But to even get to that point, we had to go through so many waves of every time we used a glass, or I was like, I have these games for Xbox 360. I don't really care about putting them on the shelf, but I do like owning them. I just need to get rid of them. I don't take enough value in collecting them and putting on a shelf personally, and that if I'm not going to play them, then why do I have them? But what we had to do was slowly, over weeks and months, line up, if it's beer glasses, be like, here are 6 glasses. Which one do you like the least? And then set that over here. And eventually, we really had to gamify it. And then over time, we'd do another round later. And finally, you'd take all the ones you like the least, and you're like, okay, how many of these can we really get rid of? Until finally you get rid of, because it's hard as someone who is not that big into nostalgia stuff in general. I was surprised how hard it was to get rid of a lot of those things, especially when I didn't realize I cared about them so much until it was time to get rid of them,
Right.
But
eventually you're left only with stuff that is emotionally attached to you.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, gamify it. That's the only way it can be done. But Cool. Okay,
Nope,
well,
I'm gonna just keep everything in boxes. I'm not getting rid of nothing. Like I will keep everything in boxes for the next, I don't care, 1-2 years until I find a place for it, because I'm keeping it.
you're like, what's inside there? Oh, nothing, but those are my emotional support boxes.
Yeah, the boxes within boxes. Yeah.
Well, let's see. So that's Blissin' Up. Let's talk about the games that we've been playing. We're all over the place with what we've got today, which I love. Sid, let's start with you. You have been playing the new Overwatch competitor, the 5v5, right? No, 6v6.
Yes,
Why am I
6v6.
telling anybody about this game? You're the one who played the Marvel Rivals game. Tell us about it.
Yes. So it's actually a lot of fun, like outside of just being like another hero shooter, because we have them coming out by the bundles now. I mean, we have so many, and then there's even more on the horizon that we saw during the state of play.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's a genre that just keeps on giving, I guess, But
I'm here
man,
for it as long as it's quality. You know.
same. And it's just like I would rather have another hero shooter, I think, than another battle royale, which is ironic because I'm actually in the middle of playing a demo for another battle royale, which I can't talk about because it's under NDA. So I'm gonna go back to Marvel Rivals. But this has just been such a blast to play, and I'm so glad that it's every bit as good as the trailers have kind of like hinted at being, because of course it's Marvel. So right away fans are gonna be like, oh, it's Marvel. I like Marvel. I'm gonna play it. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. But the thing about Marvel is that like it's, even though it's like this really weird place with its movies right now,
Mhm.
where it's just like, are we getting the Marvel fatigue, or has just movies not like been as good as they used to be, because like the 10-year long arc that we've been like growing up with and following for basically a third half of our lives is gone now, and we
Yeah.
just have like this new assortment of people who we don't really know or care about. Like I'm glad that this doesn't care about that. Like it's so much fun, and it brings in all of the classic characters while also introducing some new ones, like Luna Snow, who was most recently introduced, I think, in 2018. She first appeared in a mobile game, I know that much, and then she was slowly inducted into the comics. And that's something I want to touch on too, is that this is more comic lore oriented.
Mhm.
So a lot of the Marvel lore that we know from the movies and the MCU and things like that are heavily sanitized for digestion of movie-going audiences who may or may not read comics.
Yeah.
This kind of eschews that approach, in that all of the characters and stuff, their outfits are inspired by certain arcs, certain issues, certain like moments in time within the comics. The team ups are inspired by moments that happen in the comics. Like they just announced Venom and Adam Warlock. And I think it was Fuzzy. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Mhm.
I think it was Fuzzy who had mentioned that in the comics, Adam Warlock had like a bigger role in the Infinity Stone, uh, like lore and discovery and things like that, and also played a bigger part with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Whereas in the movies, he was just kind of, like I said earlier, sanitized down to like this really kind of compartmentalized concept. And in Marvel Rivals, he's got to team up with Mantis and Star-Lord, which I haven't read the comics of Guardians of the Galaxy, so it didn't make sense to me. But then, as Fuzzy explained it, for the uninitiated, Fuzzy is a member of our Party Invite community. Please join our Discord. Exclamation point Discord. Uh, he explained it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that makes kind of more sense then. And then, of course, Venom's going to be teaming up with Peter Parker and Penny Parker, who is also in this game, which I adore because she is so cool, just as a character concept. Like a little girl piloting a, I know it's like quote unquote diva, but like, come on now. How much mechs are mechs? I love mechs.
Right.
I just love the idea of this little girl piloting a mech in this multiverse future thing.
Mhm.
I don't even know. Like, apparently, the lore is that Doctor Doom is overthrowing Doctor Doom or working with another Doctor Doom. The timeline's coming apart and the multiverses are coming together because Doctor Doom
Totally normal.
is interacting with another Doctor Doom. So somehow, I can't remember if it's working together or trying to like overthrow him, but they're interacting and it's causing some turmoil in the universe. Multiverse. Can we say that? Can is multiverse like the
Yeah.
is that the Marvel
Multiverse
thing?
works for everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like a legally copyrighted.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. Yeah, we're just saying words out here, but careful. If we say them the wrong way, Disney will strike us.
DMCA? I
Probably.
mean, Disney is. I don't even want to talk about it because we'll get struck. But But as you can see from the gameplay here, I'm assuming the trailer's going on right now.
Here it is.
I am playing Storm, and this actually happened to be the last day of that current playtest. And so I brought out my Storm cosplay again after reintroducing it like sometime in the middle of it after getting in. And Storm is a lot of fun to play. She is an attacker of sorts. Like the three roles are Vanguards, which are tank, Bruisers, which is kind of a weird name because not a lot of them are melee based at all, but they're bruisers. They hurt. They're your main attackers, and then the strategists, which are your support characters. And I like that they're called strategists because they're not, even though they are healers, they can influence the tide of battle in ways outside of healing to where healing is the main component, but also supplemented by like debuffs and revivals and like buffing your team and things like that. And so Storm is what's considered a utility bruiser in that she creates an aura for your allies to either be speed buffed or damage buffed depending on if she's on wind mode or thunder mode. And her ultimate is like a giant hurricane that can basically like take out anything in its radius. But she, despite being, you know, goddess of the actual wind, she has like some really slow move speed in the air. I think that's just to make her, actually viable as a character that you can play with or against,
Right, right.
because if she were to move like at the actual power of wind, I don't
Instead
think,
of the Omega level threat that she is.
she's
Right.
so Omega level.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And I just love it. I just love Storm. I love Storm in this game so much. I wish she were better at, you know, doing the things that she does. You kind of have to like play around the corners and stuff. And the way that the meta is right now, where it is that 6v6 as opposed to the 5v5 that comes from like Overwatch 2, is that you do have the 2 and 2 and 2 typical rules. So we have the two vanguards, and shields are kind of a problem in this game too. If Magneto gives someone a shield, you have to bust through that shield before you can do the damage. Doctor Strange has like a kind of. I'm gonna try really hard not to compare this to the other hero shooters because that's what I was trying to do during this game because they really don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
Despite the very obvious parallels that it has with other hero shooter X. But as you can see on the screen, Doctor Strange has a shield that he could summon at will and travel around with, like hammer wielding Nightman, and that's a really big shield. And the shield that Magneto can do, it's only one per person, but it's also very strong. So as Storm, who doesn't really have the luxury of just pelting a shield with like a minigun array of arsenal, she's got her wind slices and stuff. It's annoying to deal with, I'll put politely. And then Hulk can give shields to everybody who's around him in a radius. They're weaker than Magneto's, but if he's in a radius when he uses a shout, he gives multiple allies a shield. And I'm like, how am I supposed to deal with this? So I really do appreciate the 6v6 action again after, having it taken away from us from the sequel to other hero shooter. But at the same time, it recreates those old problems, especially with the shields and things like that.
For sure.
I mean, the funny thing there is how have they discussed what seasons look like at all? And that would be because I can see the meta changing for this like every 3 to 4 months, like just adding and subtracting characters and giving different versions of characters, since literally everybody has like 5 different alternates that they could turn into. I mean, you're basically using Storm as she has most recently been portrayed, but if you take her back like a few years, like some of the retro stuff that she's been, it was way different. So
Oh, if they
Right.
had
So
like
the way that
different
they're
like skill sets, you mean?
well, no, what he's saying is like it could be like, for instance, there's Spider-Man, and then there's Spider-Punk, right? And then there's like Spider-Gwen, and then like Spider-Woman. Well, she's not Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. Spider-Woman and Silk, like all these different variations of Spider-Man. But I think the way that they're tackling that is through skin variations. So, for instance, Storm has her 97, like X-Men 97 self, but it's just a skin. There is the Hulk, the regular Hulk, and then there's like the Barbarian Hulk or whatever you want to call him, also just a different skin. There's actually Spider-Man and Spider-Punk, just a different skin. So I think the way that they're going about it is that if the character is in the game as a character, then it won't be like 2 different versions of that character for you to choose from that are 2 separate kits, 2 separate functions and things like that. I think the only instance that changes is where, I mean, like, using Spider-Man again, because I mean, there's so many different, especially with like the Spider-Verse now becoming a thing. I mean, not now becoming a thing, but now becoming like a main thing that everyone knows about.
Mhm.
I think this is going to be the easiest comparison to draw. But Spider-Man and then Penny Parker are both in this game, right? Penny Parker is technically the Spider-Man of, Shin. Oh gosh, what is the name of her region? It's like Shin something. Shin, New York? I can't remember. Wherever she's from. Her universe. So she's the Spider-Man of that universe, but they're not the same character. So it's not like you're playing Penny Parker or Spider-Man with a Penny Parker skin. You're playing a whole different character because she is a whole different character.
Mhm.
Whereas if they were to introduce, for instance, Miles Morales, they would probably just put him as like a Spider-Man skin, but with like different visual effects,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally
Like he
makes
would
sense.
probably be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would wonder, like, we're speculating right now. I really
Hmm.
wonder what this will end up looking like since they have such a deep well to pull from, because they are pulling from the comics and not just the MCU or other things, like including the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and stuff, which is the only way that I know Penny Parker, for example.
Hmm.
They just have so much to pull from. On one hand, they have a lot of freedom because they have so much that they could do at any time, but also since they're at the beginning of this journey, they would really have to make a decision of how they want to approach this. Just like you said, of like, okay, we want this character. Is Miles Morales his own character, or is he a skin of Peter Parker Spider-Man? Um,
Right.
because that, imagine if they're 2 or 3 years into the game and they decide that actually we want to pivot and change things. That could be very confusing. But
Well, one of the things that someone had mentioned, I think it was Bowser who actually brought this up, is that that's a good point that you mentioned, Tegan, that this is the beginning of its lifespan. And he was really surprised that either Deadpool nor Wolverine were in this, like at launch, because
uh-huh.
Wolverine is in everything that Marvel does, like everything, literally everything. Even the X-Men isn't even about Wolverine or the X-Men anymore. It's about Wolverine. Like, I mean, it's kind of been that way. I mean, since like the Hugh Jackman took the scene, I'm talking about the MCU here, not like actual. I mean, although Wolverine's in the Avengers in the comics too, so somehow because Wolverine is Wolverine. But
Yeah.
I never really gave any thought to that. Like, how popular do the characters have to be for them to consider a deep cut, or like how not popular do they have to be for them to be considered a deep cut? And then how many deep cuts are they going to try and pull in? And are we even going to know who they are? You know?
And
Yeah.
the question then is, okay, well, are they just going to make the money off of it, make them all transactional, and costume only, like, because I would love to have all the spider people as different abilities per what they are.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like what they're doing. It's the only hero shooter that like would be interesting to me in that way, just because of the potential there of doing anything with all these properties. But I
Or
mean, I played Ultimate Alliance, the Black Order, and that was a fantastic single player game. Really, I didn't get to play co op, unfortunately, but like you can see where they took some of what they learned from that, and they just like shredded it and put it into the hero shooter system. I'm glad you're liking it. I'm glad that people are playing it. And that's the one thing with all the other hero shooters, is that that people will continue playing this one.
Mm-hmm.
so
It
then
will have support.
my next question with all this is, do they, I think I'm just repackaging what you said, Sid, that do they use this as the starting point to introduce people to new things? So like, do they introduce characters that we already know as like they're coming from somewhere else and now they're here? Or did they think that this game will be so popular that they can use this to introduce new characters, which can then live somewhere else? Which, to your point, pretty surprised then that Deadpool and Wolverine aren't in this game right now. It seems like
Right.
an obvious, even if you're not trying to make money off of like a skin or anything, that is surprising that they wouldn't put in there. It seems like it would be straightforward.
Well, to that end, I feel like Black Panther, as he is in this game right now, kind of fills that niche of like uh kind of like bulky brawler sort of affair, because what he does is he goes through the back line and like slashes through everybody, which is something exactly that Wolverine would do.
Mhm.
Um, but what's interesting is that in this game they take advantage of his like Wakandan like reverberation. You have the power to like absorb things and then like do more damage back. Whereas I don't know what they would do with Wolverine besides give him the ability to passively heal. Like I don't actually know the full extent of Wolverine's powers. So that's just me, kind of putting that out there. But
Well, even more than a mechanics thing, I wonder, like now that I'm sitting on it, I wonder if they intentionally did not put those characters in here because they don't want people to confuse. Like, what if the Wolverine they put in here is like another version of Wolverine we've already seen, where the Wolverine in the upcoming Deadpool movie may be a unique Wolverine that we have never seen before, and that may be confusing to introduce these two new versions of the same character at the same time.
I invite that one to be its own podcast because I have so many things to say about that.
oh dear, when does that movie even come out? I haven't been keeping track of it.
Soon,
Couple months.
I don't know. I just know they have a really great
I think
popcorn
I think
bucket.
it's July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of July, the next time that you will be able to play this game is in July. They recently just released a trailer that the closed beta, which is what this one is going to be called. I think the last one was closed alpha. So they've officially moved from alpha to beta, and it's going to be the console beta. So the announcement focused, I think, primarily on PS5 because they did say in that they revealed that there's going to be a Scarlet Spider skin for Spider-Man in that. So it's like the black one with like the red, you know, lines and webbing and whatnot. And that's also the time that we'll be introducing Venom and Adam Warlock. But even though it's supposed to be the console beta, it still will be available to play on Steam. So it's going to be available for PS5, Xbox, and Steam to play next month. The actual exact day hasn't been announced as of yet, at least as far as I know. But that is my birth month, y'all. So I'm taking it as a very personal thank you gift from Marvel to me for,
You, the protagonist.
to me, the protagonist, the main character of the universe, and Storm, as you can see on the screen. Just that this is my alter ego. But yeah, I'm really excited to play again. I need it.
I know this is available on other platforms. Is it a crossplay situation?
I don't know yet because the last test was only on PC. I'm
Oh, checks out.
assuming that that's going to be something that they test during the beta, but it could be just one of those times where they want to see how the different servers interact with the different consoles before they introduce crossplay. Because what was it that took forever to get crossplay? Was it Apex Legends?
Yeah, that took a long
Okay.
time.
Yeah, and then I don't think did Overwatch initially have
No.
crossplay? I know it
did not.
I know it didn't have cross save or like cross progression or whatever.
Nope, it did not have crossplay. That's why I was able to climb the competitive ladder because I could only play against other controller players.
That basically took until it ended up on Switch, didn't it? I'm pretty sure that's when they enabled everything.
Yeah.
That's when it finally got to Nintendo.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
It's,
I didn't realize it was that. Well, I think
Yeah.
this might be the same way then because, it's I guess part of the hero shooter like Destiny that's going to be the thing. So, I don't anticipate it will automatically have crossplay during this beta, but who knows? We'll see once it, launches this July. Well, launches in beta this July.
Well, cool. Let's then pivot over to Vilos. Vilos, you've been playing another game that has a lot of players in it. It's not a competitive 5v5 game, but
It is not. So I'll be talking about 33 Immortals, the game that I totally didn't play before. That was announced last year by Thunder Lotus Games. First off, I mean it's Thunder Lotus, known most recently for Spiritfarer. Everybody loves that. 33 Immortals. The easiest way to say it is that
is
you are
33 Immortals. That's the easiest way to say it.
That is indeed the easiest way. You are one of 33 people dropped into a part of hell, and it's really completely based off of the Divine Comedy's levels of hell, basically. And so
With the famous
33
33
players.
levels of hell.
Yes.
I'll be quiet now. I'll stop
it's-
heckling.
there's a lot to it if you're aware of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, but suffice to say, you are one of 33 people. There's gonna be 32 other people with you at all times. Well, in the
Ideally.
same world as you,
Yeah.
at all times. So
Oh.
you've just got one map and you hope that you're cooperating with the rest of the people. It's a very interesting game. That I think what I was gonna start off with actually was Hades. Um,
Yeah, I was surprised
it's
that was like the.
it's very much Hades as far as the gameplay itself goes. The button presses and just the general moment to moment gameplay is going to be a Hades like, but it's not a roguelike at all. It's very it's very straightforward. The whole point is you just smash up all these baddies across the map. You do this in order to up your abilities because you do have I forget what it's called, but this purple stuff that you can gather, and you have bones that you can gather, and each of those things can do certain things. Like the bones, you can find a little spot and redeem your bones for additional health and stuff like that. The purple stuff, you get additional health boons or shield boons or an attack boon. And all these things come together, abilities very much like Hades. It is visually similar to Hades.
Indeed,
And
indeed.
moment to moment, you're trying to bash all these enemies, get to where you need to be abilities-wise, and then once you do that, you've got these torture chambers that open up. And the torture chambers are just mobs, massive mobs. And each torture chamber can only hold 6 people. So you've got different torture chambers across the entire map that open up at different times, and you just hope that everybody's cooperating and everybody's getting together into these different places and beating those torture chambers. Because once enough of those torture chambers are completed, then you end up being able to ascend and fight an actual boss. And we don't know for sure how many are actually going to be in the game, but there's 3 confirmed bosses. The whole point is first boss is Lucifer, the second boss is Adam and Eve, and the third boss is supposedly God.
Naturally.
That's I think they've got a couple things that are probably under wraps there. But this closed beta over this weekend, people could fight Adam and Eve. And I unfortunately haven't seen it yet. I need to find a YouTube video of somebody doing that, because this beta was actually streamable and could be talked about, so that's great. But it's a fun experience, and I cannot wait for it to fully release. Right now, all we know is that it's PC and Xbox. Period. It will release on Game Pass via early access.
Oh.
At some point this year.
Oh.
So, and that part is still not guaranteed as far as this year, but it's almost guaranteed to be this year. But it will still be early access. There is not any, according to the way that the Thunder Lotus streams were going over the past week. No, like they do not want to say that they're releasing. It will be releasing early access. That's it.
Yep.
But a lot of people were actually literally begging them for codes for Xbox. They ran out of codes for Xbox users, and all the Thunder Lotus staff was like, we got an Epic code. You want an Epic code? And it was really funny seeing that on Twitter. I mean, people were literally begging, and they had just had to put the same thing. It's like, we ran out of Xbox codes, so sorry.
Oh no.
Epic.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a fun game. I mean, I played it
Yeah.
the last time during their like first test or whatever. I didn't get a chance to play this one around because I was playing the other thing that I was talking about, which is under NDA, and I can't talk about it now. It's so much fun because it took up so much time, and I wish I could have, because I wanted to play with you, Vilos. I wanted to play 33 Immortals with you, especially after how much fun we had trying to beat the party system like we did with Karma Zoo
Yeah.
the last time. And this time they had a built-in party system, and I was just like, no, I don't want to play that. It's fine. There's no challenge if we get to party together, like of our own volition. Like
It's really funny though, because I mean that's where I think it lives and dies, because the community itself is actually really good. The Discord is just absolutely popping. The people that are involved with 33 Immortals are really excited about it. So it's another game that's just like, holy shit, we we know at the start that there's support on all sides. Thunder Lotus has the money, like they don't give a shit, and they got Xbox money for it too. So like, there's no real risk at all for Thunder Lotus. It's just, are we gonna have enough players? And the community so far has said, hell yes, you're gonna have enough players. So I'm really excited to see where it continues. It's not something that you're gonna want to do forever. It's just like Hades. I mean, okay, listen,
I was about to say,
I know some people have continued to play Hades, but that's why Hades 2 is out, because people were fucking done with the game eventually.
Eventually, after like 100 hours, you know.
I've got 38 runs in of Hades 1 now, so I can officially say it.
Talk to me when you get to 100, boy.
I was about to say just 38.
Trust me, I've officially given in to myself and said I'm only gonna beat Hades once.
Wait,
I'm not gonna do the 10 for the full.
Oh, you gotta roll
ending.
credits. You gotta roll credits.
Not in this case. Listen, that we all know the only 3 roguelikes that I've liked now is Hades, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, and I already forgot the other one.
Well, nailed it. It doesn't get any better than those 3.
Oh wait, I was gonna say Axiom Verge, but that's a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
I literally was thinking about this before the podcast so I could say it. But anyway,
I don't know. Do you like Inscription?
Hades
That one's
is
cool.
now the there we go. That was the other one and they're all completely different, but they're all
Those are very
roguelikes.
different.
So
Speaking of what are and are not roguelikes, I think I'll counter your point and say that this is a roguelike. 33 Immortals. It's a roguelike because you're doing it's a thing that you run through the dungeons, you build your abilities that only happen for that run, but then you have like the whole meta currency and the different weapons that you can unlock and use. It's just a co-op roguelike.
Yeah,
you're right on that. Yeah,
it looks like a roguelike to me.
The fact that it is cooperative does take a lot of that away from my personal definition of it. Yeah. But yeah, you are right in that. I mean, when we say it's like Hades, the fucking layout is the same.
It is.
Yeah.
For better or worse, it's the same. You have a little shop guy. You've got Dante himself as the guy that gives you abilities.
Dante and his pet
you have
Inferno.
to unlock them. Yes.
Just
I forget who the merchant guy is, but he gives you cloaks or new skins for your weapons and whatnot. Those are the things that do stay with you throughout, and you have currently 4 weapon types: the daggers, a new rod staff thing, the staff of, I forget what it was. The staff of, maybe
Fire.
Staff of Sorrow. It was actually interesting. I wanted to play it, but I didn't play because I didn't play it until today, and I wasted time. But the staff that they added this time is actually pretty cool because it's a support thing, but not in a healing way. I think it does have a healing ability that you can get a few levels in, but it actually slows down enemies, which is a really good boon to have in this game because you will get overwhelmed with the mobs. And it was effective in the 2 runs that I saw of it, where it was actually used, because everybody else uses swords.
Is it the daggers?
Or bows. Actually, the daggers were not as popular in the games that I was in because I was the dagger guy and everybody else was playing stuff. Yeah, I was the dagger guy. Almost everybody else I saw was the main sword or the bow. The bow is pretty good, except if you're alone, you're screwed because the bow requires you to make distance, and there is no way you can do close combat. You will absolutely get hit if you're not within a certain range.
You were in that torture chamber on here, and seemed pretty tough to put arm's length between you and your targets.
Well, then that's where the team abilities come in, right? Because there's some that give you shields, and there's some that summon arrows from above and things like that. Did they add any more team up abilities in this iteration?
I don't know, because a lot of people were having less success in this one with using them. I didn't have a whole lot of people gather enough into actual groups. They would splinter off and they would just run that way or this way, and that's the main issue with the game. And so I think when it's fully available and people are actually grouping up and in Discord chats and whatnot, it'll be different and you can really find some success. I just don't necessarily know that you'll find success in random matchups, and
Well,
that's a little disappointing to me.
I think this time around it was dependent on the player pool because it was a closed beta that was available to more people than the previous iteration was, and so people were able to quickly understand and work with each other more readily in that iteration versus this one, which of course would have a whole bunch of new players who don't know what to do and they're
Hmm.
still learning the game, and so I think you're right in that when the game finally actually comes out and people will have enough time with it to learn to do that thing, then it'll be better. Because when I played the first time around, I was able to ascend at least once and fight that boss. I
Hmm.
actually ended up dying during the boss fight, but we still won because we win together because it's co-op.
Heck yeah.
But
Yeah.
I did ascend once, and I didn't think that it would be any different this time around. But I mean, your experience speaks to the contrary, in that people were just running amok doing willy nilly. So I
Yeah.
think it just was dependent on the new player pool, like the new blood just coming in and running with the heads cut off and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Because I played 5 or 6 hours probably of the first round, maybe more actually. This one I only played a couple hours, but the map was virtually untouched. The enemies were the same. Um, there wasn't really a whole lot different here. So yeah, it really just comes with the territory of who's going in with you. But I'm really excited that if somebody can get at least a chunk of like at least 12 people together at the same time, you can at least then have two groups of people doing torture chambers at the same time and hopefully finding some success. If it's possible to have a gang of 33 people that playing together, that's just wild.
Exclamation
So
Discord.
I'm
Everybody
excited
get
to
in
see
here.
what that would be.
Yeah.
Could you party up with 33 people though, or is there a max?
I didn't see the max when I was trying to create a group, so I don't know for sure.
That's
That would be interesting.
the
Yeah.
question. Is if we get a big enough group together, are we gonna run into a wall that says, "Hey, actually, your group's too big"? You know?
Yeah, I mean, because the torture chambers, there's not that many torture chambers open at the same time. Like usually, you've only got 2 or 3 open at the same time, so that's 6 people per. So up to 18 people in torture chambers at the same time. So the other 15 people are just screwing around the map.
As you do. As you do.
The gods are kind of trying to screw you over, and they start sending things like the spinny fire wheels at you,
Dang it, gods.
and basically nuking half the map in the process. So it was pretty difficult. Both playthroughs that I had, I mean the initial alpha and this beta were both tough. So it's one of those things where it's for particular people. But if you get the right group together, it's going to be something really special.
For sure. This has been on my radar for a while. And the fact that I mean, it's a roguelike and I really like those. But the fact that you can have so many of your pals in the same world as you is great. But the biggest party size I think I've ever seen in any game is Halo Infinite, which has like 8 or 12 in a party. I forget which one, because I think you
Wait,
can
up
do.
to 12?
I think so. Whatever the biggest big team battle is, which I think is 12v12.
The biggest big team is 16 still.
It's 16, so 8v8. Then maybe 8's as big as I've ever seen. So to say that 33 people could go into a game together is different than 33 people can be in a party together. And I'd hate to get a ton of people together only to realize that we can't play in the same instance, So, yeah, I'm excited for this game either way. It looks cool. It's got some cool Hades stuff in it. With if you just told me that it was, a like discount Hades with multiplayer, I am completely on board. Which, calling it a discount Hades definitely sounds like an insult, but I don't mean it that way.
It's like the 7 out of 10 Hades instead of the 10 out of 10 Hades.
Well, exactly. I mean,
Too much water.
It's
Too much water.
Hades is one of the best games I've ever played, and so if this is just most of that, then I'm so on board. But yeah, so I'm really excited for this. watching your gameplay, I'm happy that it does seem challenging. I don't think I was worried about it being challenging, but I like what I'm seeing. I do hope that it I hope that the controls play as well as I want them to play. Like watching you struggle solo, like you said, in the torture chamber to get away from people is like, okay, this is an acceptable mechanic with a group, but I'd hate to find myself in that position regularly, thinking, oh boy, this build doesn't work if I'm not with a party.
I'm not able to see the video, so I just gotta ask. Are you waiting for people to go into the chambers before going in, or are you just going in when one opens?
I don't remember if I guess I had a torture chamber in that video, but yeah, the torture chambers that I was playing today, we ended up getting those full. Yeah, for sure.
It seemed like there was just a big doorway that you just walked into.
Yeah.
By yourself.
Well, ideally, what you'll do is when they open, you just kind of sit there and wait for other people to show up and come fight with you, and then you all go in together. Yeah.
Because then it automatically starts spawning shit, and you're gonna get wrecked.
Yeah.
Right.
I know how to play games. I know how to play games.
I can do this. So,
I will say it is speed wise, as far as the controls go, it is like the earliest part of Hades. Because until you've unlocked anything, you're not gonna feel like everything's responsive.
Sure.
You know. So it feels a bit behind. You probably would have to get like 3 to 4 hours of a really good play in of earning your keep and getting a couple levels of abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. Well, that looks good. Well, that is 33 Immortals. You both have played on PC in early access. It was an alpha. This is from beta. And then, like you said, they're hesitant to give out. I think they're smart to not give out a hard date. It'll be ready when it's ready. I think they've said 2024, but that's all we know. They've been very keen not to elaborate any more than that. So I'm excited for that. I tell you what, for people who are looking for a game similar in vibe to this, if they want multiplayer, a game that seems severely underrated right now is Endless Dungeon. That is a 3-player Hades-inspired twin stick shooter. So, very similar. It's isometric. It's like technically 3D, but it's like waves of enemies and stuff. It's not the same thing, but if you like this and you like Hades, you will probably like Endless Dungeon. So, cool.
Sweet. Is it on Game Pass? Exclamation point Game Pass.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's not. I think we bought it for like $15.
Yeah, it's not.
It's worth $15. So go play it. It's like the most Hades inspired game I've ever seen, because not just in like the combat and gameplay, but there's like a hub where you can talk to all these characters and stuff. And as you unlock stuff in the like normal combat area of the game, you can also unlock vanity items like a band that plays. So like as you progress in the game, you get better music in the hub that you hang out in.
That's kind of cool.
It's really cool. Hades really did that. Like you can do all sorts of stuff with music. The Supergiant crew over there always does stuff with music, but Endless Dungeon is neat, and it can tide you over until 33 Immortals is out sometime in the next 6 months or so. Cool. So that is 33 Immortals. And then the game that I've been playing is one that I've seen trailers and ads for, was pretty interested in it, but kind of forgot that the release date was sneaking up on me. So thankfully, Vilos sent me the information when it came out this past week. The game I'm talking about is Skald. 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 It is a game published by Raw Fury. It is developed by something with North in the name that I've forgotten. I'll find that out in a minute. Oopsie, sorry. And it's great. It is $13 dang dollars. It is the best $13 you're going to spend on just about any game. This game looks like Loop Hero, game I've talked about extensively on here. I'm not going to tell you all about Loop Hero, except that the aesthetic from Loop Hero, which is a game that has a CRT mode, to give you an idea, is very similar to Skald, which has a CRT mode. It is an actual 8-bit game. For real, looks like it would have come out on the original Nintendo. the NES. Vilos described it to me, and I thought that at the time I was like, is this, how accurate is this? Or is this like an oversimplification to make it a useful statement? Like making it a true and useful statement, but maybe not a precise statement. You said this is similar to Baldur's Gate 3. It's like a much smaller Baldur's Gate 3. And I was like, okay, well, you know, that Baldur's Gate is really just D&D, and tons of games are actually D&D. They just have a certain coat of paint on them that makes it look like not D&D. So I was like, what, I'm not really sure what I'm getting into here, but it's $13. It has positive reviews. It's got an aesthetic I like, and I'm just going to give it a shot. So I picked this thing up. I played the first chapter, which was, I gotta say, a solid tutorial. As an RPG, it starts out in a great way. You start out on a ship, a nice little like tutorial island, I like to call it, where you get to explore, figure out some basic mechanics. You get some items. You get a shot at dice rolls, like talking to people. You can pick locks. You can roll the dice and use your skills and the dice roll to pick a lock or force the door open. You can talk to people with diplomacy. You can spot things in your environment using your awareness skill. So if you've played Baldur's Gate 3 or any version of D&D, like any standard tabletop game, you're going to understand the basic framework of this game. So it's an RPG. There's eldritch themes to it. So you start on the ship, and one way or another, eldritch, spooky water horrors happen. And you've got your starting character. Mine was a thief. Not who I normally would have picked, but chat demanded it. And you know what? If chat's going to be the reason that I play something in a way that's outside of my comfort zone, so be it. So I played a thief who's sneaking around, who has a backstab attack if I flank the enemy, which means that if the enemy is vulnerable for all sorts of reasons, or if I have a character on either side of the grid from whoever I'm trying to attack, they are considered flanked, and I can do special attack. Well, flanking is just about the only thing in the game that I had a problem with the definition of, because the game does a pretty good job of defining things for you. So if you've played games like Slay the Spire is the one that jumps to mind, where anytime, or Into the Breach is another good one, where there's a bunch of information on your screen and there might be keywords. So there will be like vulnerable or backstab or difficulty check. Any of these things, the game will be like, hey, if you want to click the word here, we'll define it for you in case you forgot what we're talking about. And I love that, because it means I don't have to remember everything. I don't have to go somewhere else to search a glossary for information. I can just click the words right there and it defines it, just brings up that dictionary. So
that kind of reminds me of Pentiment, where you could just like hover over like the highlighted names and places and things like that, and it'll just be like, here's a picture of that person whose name that is. Here's their description of the place that you're highlighting or whatever.
And
Here's a weird ass cat.
Here's some weird ass cat, and it really felt like that. That's just right on the money. That these games are taking the lessons of decades now of game making, and they can do all these little quality of life things like that older games never had, but they can make this game that looks like it would have come out 30 years ago, but make it play like it's new. Like they make it play like it's fresh, and like the developers really have a bunch of experience under their belt. Because if you were making a game back in the NES days, nobody had experience under their belt because games hadn't been around for very long. So like for me, I mentioned earlier in the show that I don't have a lot of nostalgia factor going into which games I choose to play, but I do like retro aesthetics with modern gaming mechanics, because there's I'm the kind of person who really likes minimalism across a lot of parts of my life. Sometimes I struggle with it, like when I'm trying to choose which things to get rid of when I'm about to move. But I'm keeping those gaming glasses, all right? That one has Ragnaros on it. I'm not getting rid of that thing. The other one has Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, talk to me about it. Anyway, minimalism is great, and games like this really illustrate that graphics are only one part of a bigger picture of what a game is. We've joked internally, like off the pod here, that you know, so many people, the Clowny McFrowny that I joked about many podcasts ago, who was like, yo, Sea of Stars, because somebody was like, Sea of Stars and Starfield came out at the same time, and one of the headlines I read was like, the best RPG of the year came out this week, and it's not Starfield, and it was Sea of Stars. It was a picture of Sea of Stars, and one of the guys in the comments, who I've named Clowny McFrowny, said he's like, Starfield and Sea of Stars are not in the same league. You know, one has gorgeous graphics, and the other one looks like a Super Nintendo game. And the implication there was that Starfield is much better because it looks much better. And no, Starfield's not really that good of a game. And Sea of Stars got glowing, unanimously glowing reviews, right? But Sea of Stars does look like a Super Nintendo game. But that's not a bad thing. If you don't like older graphics, then that's perfectly fine. But that does not tell you the quality of the game. So, when I'm looking at Skald here, I really hope that people who don't normally play games like this, but do like RPGs, I should say people who don't play games that look like this, I hope that they give this a shot. The price tag is so low. I paid $13 for this game, and this is about the best $13 I've spent all year. Just interesting game mechanics. You've got a party member system. You can have up to 6 people. I've only had 2 people in my party at a time. They have different abilities. You can level them up in different ways. Where you could even have, you know, one of the first characters I met was a thief, just like me, where I'm like, oh man, like there are like 9 types of classes here, and you're telling me one of the first people I found is just like me? Oh geez. But I could level that person up in a completely different way than I leveled up my character, which meant that they weren't the same. They did have specialties. I made her better with a bow, and I was better at putting on light armor and sneaking around and stuff. And so the party member system is cool. You choose one of your characters to be your leader, who does your skill checks. And when you're like sneaking around, for example, I would want to make sure that my sneaky thief is my leader, not my knight in heavy armor, which makes him terrible at sneaking. So choosing who you have as your leader is important. It makes you want to know who your characters are. You're invested in them a little bit. You can, when you're doing like a difficulty check, so like I wanted to climb a wall, when the skill check was like on my screen, I was able to switch between my characters to see which one had the best stats. I didn't have, like most games, you would have to exit out of the skill check, switch to some other character, and then go back into the skill check. And the fact that this just stepped past that was really impressive. I liked that a whole lot. So, quality of life stuff. There is a lot of, I'm going to rewind this video that you guys can't see a little bit. There's this gorgeous way that the shadows illuminate as you explore an area, because your character can only interact with things that they can see. And things affect that, like, are there torches lit around you? Are you holding a lantern? Does your character have good or bad awareness? So you could walk by something and just not see it. Like your character doesn't see it, just like Baldur's Gate. And you won't see it. You won't be able to interact with it because your character didn't see it. Like you, the player, might know that there's a barrel I can search, but if your character doesn't see it, then you can't do nothing about it. But there were interesting dialogue choices. Do you help these people or those people? Are you nice, neutral, or mean? There was an interesting like main story arc of like, I'm going to save this person who I have this background with and all this. And all of that felt meaningful. I felt like even when I wasn't making a choice that really made a decision from a role, like would have an impact that would pay off or have consequences later, I still felt like it gave color and flavor to who I wanted my character to be, which I think is a huge part of what makes a good role-playing game. Because I don't need every single decision to be some huge impactful thing that's going to come back in Act 3. Sometimes I just want stuff that makes me think of my character as a certain way. Like, sure, my character's stats aren't going to change if I decide to be a little gruff or cold-shouldery to somebody. But that's going to change how I'm going to see my character and how I'm going to make future decisions. So, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in there. What else am I missing? Oh, in the tutorial fight, I got riggedy wrecked. I fought my first mage and didn't really understand how the health bars worked and I was dead. Suddenly dead. I had health potions, didn't think I needed them. Sure
It
did.
was like not even 2 minutes into it too.
Oh my gosh, it all happened so fast.
Well, like how health bars generally work is that when they reach 0, you die.
True, but you know what the funny thing is? Every character has 2 health bars. And when you start the game, it doesn't define that yet. It doesn't define that until you actually are done with the tutorial. So I didn't realize that I only had 1 health bar instead of 2. So,
So does the second health bar kind of work like in boss battles, how they have like a health bar and then you deplete the first health bar and then underneath that is a second health bar? Or is it like there's a health bar on top of a different health bar?
it is so there 1 health bar depletes before the other health bar. But the way it works is you have vitality, which is it's going to go up and down often. It goes down first in combat, but it's easy to refill with potions. And then once that is broken, you take wound damage, which is bad. You don't want to take any wound damage at all. But it's something that I really like from tabletop games I've played, where in most games, let's say you have 50 health, well, let's say you have 100 health, and your character goes all the way down to 10 health. But as long as you have potions or you rest or whatever, your character's going to go up to full health and it's no big deal. In a game like this, when your vitality goes down, no big deal. You can get vitality back. But once you start taking wound damage, you will start getting injured. So like your arm will be injured and you'll have severe penalties to attack. Or your leg is injured, severe penalties to movement. Your head's injured, severe penalties to awareness and willpower and like spellcasting and stuff. So it means that like taking that first bar of damage, not such a big deal, but as soon as you're down to that second health bar, every single hit can be pretty devastating. And so the only way that you can refill that health bar is with maybe magic, I can't remember, but the main way I did it is you have to go rest. You have to go find a bed to sleep in and eat food, which you can search for food and you can craft certain items with recipes and stuff. You have to have enough food to sleep through the night and heal and do some other stuff. So, yeah, at first I was a little frustrated that they didn't explain that. And then once I saw what they were doing, I think that they did it the right way. Like, I wish maybe they would have said, like, hey, we'll explain this later. But in the end, I think it all worked out pretty well. But Skald, y'all, I haven't played a lot of new games this year. I've been almost entirely on comfort food gaming. Just a lot of stuff. We recently had a podcast where I listed all the stuff when we talked about how many new and old games we've played. Everything I've played has been old. And that's fine. I've been enjoying myself. But this is the first real big hit that I've played this year. And I can't recommend it enough. If you're looking for an RPG of any kind, I have no idea how long this game is. I'm not going to look it up. Because who knows if I'm going to finish it. But I am thoroughly impressed by this game, and I can't wait to stream it again, probably in this coming weekend.
Just a reminder for those interested, it's Skald against the Black Priory.
Thank you.
So
It's got a colon in there.
it's got a really cool subtitle.
It's got a whole name. But yeah, so love the aesthetics, love the game mechanics. Just a lot to enjoy here. It seems like there's a certain level of depth to it that I'm looking for, while also being pretty simple in the way you can absorb it. Like, it seems like it can be deep or it can be simple. It sort of depends on what you're looking for. And I'm playing on the normal difficulty. There's an easy difficulty and a narrative difficulty. So if you just want to experience the gameplay without having to worry about dying during the first fight like I did, then you're absolutely encouraged to. They have a few other accessibility options too. I complain that my eyeballs are kind of bad, and being able to mess with the font to make it all caps made a big difference for me. So really appreciated that. So yeah, probably like $15 or $16 or something on full price Raw Fury joint. So the music was good. There was music the whole entire time. Which some games, have like dead zones of the game where there's nothing going on. This is not one of those. They had music going the entire time, and it was all pretty good. So, go play this game.
Did it sound like Loop? Did like the music remind you of Loop Hero at all?
I mean, not Loop Hero specifically, but it is 8-bit. It all sounds
Yay!
authentically NES.
Like chiptuned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you know what? I've told you all the things I like. One of the things I disliked the most is that when you're in combat, you can go back and look at a combat log that's pretty extensive. It's got everything in it. But while you're taking turns, like sometimes the enemies will take turns so damn fast that there's no way you could possibly read all the things that it put on screen. Like they're just there and gone. I wish I could slow that down. I really hope they add a function to slow that down. But I think that was it. There were a few typos here and there. I think we determined that they're from Norway, so not a big deal. It wasn't a deal breaker in any way. But it's just a funny thing to notice. It actually felt more authentic that there were typos in it, like based on the type of game it is. But yeah, go play that game. It is pretty cool. I think it's PC only, but I don't know that for sure actually. So let me look that up real quick. But
We must do research.
that's right. So yeah, so that's what I played, and I streamed a little Noida afterwards. That was fun to show that to everybody out there. That's one of my regular rotations. That and League of Legends, but we don't talk about that game.
Because we like being happy.
Yeah, we do. Okay, well that's a wrap. So that's what we've been playing this week. Feels good. 3 very different games, couple multiplayer, one very single player game. Yeah. So cool. So we'll be back again next week. If you would like to join us for any of these games, Marvel Rivals or 33 Immortals, whenever that comes out, the best place to find us is our Discord, discord.gg/partyinviteshow. You can group up for that. You can share your love for all sorts of games that you're playing, that we're playing. You can also catch Obsydianyte at twitch.tv/Obsydianyte, where you're streaming. You're streaming on the reg. You're probably streaming 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week. Maybe.
I'm getting back there. I recently just started streaming Multiverses because that just came out. So that
Right.
and Splatoon are probably going to keep me busy for a while. So Splatoon just started a new season, and I'm going to be wanting to get the cosmetics from that. Probably more Splatoon, less Multiverses, just because it's a shell of its former self. I don't know. They had a whole year to make a better product, and we got a worse one. But I'll get into that at another podcast.
Yeah, we'll circle back. Okay. Well then, I've been your host, Tegan. I've been joined by Vilos and Obsydianyte. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to you again very soon. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.